Shabbat Shalom. Pleasure to be with you today. This is a big parsha, is it not? Everything about it is big. Moshe's emotions are big. The 10 Commandments are big. The Shema and Ve'ahavta, huge. The description of what is to be said to children when one day they ask, what does this all mean to you? Big. The seeds of the Birkat HaMazon, the blessing after the meal, appear in a couple of places, but in this parsha, a little seed that grew into something so big. The description of the Jewish people interacting with the Holy One at Mount Sinai, it's huge. This parsha is a tidal wave of wonders and enormity. In a way, we might see some of this parsha as becoming a fulfillment of some of the prophecy that the people would become so numerous, that we would become as many as the stars in the sky. This great people that King Solomon spoke of, too numerous to count or number. Similarly, the prophet Hosea said, the Israelites will be like the sand on the seashore, which cannot be measured or counted. So in a way, this Torah portion would seem to mirror the very promise that was given to the Jewish people that we would be huge and uncountable. What happened? Well, size doesn't always matter. And at the end of this parsha, we have a little verse that puts us in some perspective. It's okay to have a good self-image, and you would be amazed at how many people walking down the street will tell you there are so many millions and millions more Jews on the planet than we know there to be. You'd be amazed at how big people think Israel is, and how many people don't even know that Israel is the only Jewish country on this earth. To the average Joe walking down the street, we're as many as the sand of the sea and the stars in the sky. But we know that that is not the case. And our little verse toward the end of this parsha gives us some comfort and also very much puts us in a realistic place. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 7. Moses tells the people, it is not because you are the most numerous of peoples that God set his heart upon you. Indeed, atem hame'at mikol ha'amim. You are the smallest of peoples. But it was because God loved you and kept the oath he made to your forefathers, that God freed you with a mighty hand and rescued you from the house of bondage, from the power of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Indeed, we are the smallest of peoples. There may be other peoples on earth who are numerically smaller, but when it comes to counting the big peoples of the earth, for better or worse, the Jewish people have always been counted among them, at least certainly in the western part of the world. And yet, we are barely 0.2 of 1% of the world's population. Sometimes people think that's a misprint. Well, it must be 2%, right? Which is pretty tiny anyway, because that's about what we've been in the United States. Nope, 0.2%. As was noted not too long ago, a statistical error in a Chinese survey. When we think of how many people there are in this state alone, Moses seems to be right. We are the smallest of peoples, maybe somewhere around 18 million worldwide. That's kind of stunning when we think about the outsized influence that has been assigned to us and that we have taken upon ourselves. What does Moses mean when he says we're the smallest of peoples? Probably talking about numbers, but also possibly about reminding us what kind of self-image we should have. Like Moses himself, who was described as the most humble person that ever lived, I tend to translate that as the most humbled person that ever lived, inasmuch as at the beginning of this parsha, Moses reminds us how very humbled he was. He wanted to lead those people into the promised land and was told, no, you are human. You are no larger than anyone else, though your legacy will be. But you yourself are a human being, and you will leave your people to go on without you. I see that as the most humbling of maybe all of the experiences of so many of our patriarchs and founders. But it's a reminder that the Jewish people should be, as Rashi reminds us, thinking of ourselves as Abraham did in Genesis 18, that we are but dust and ashes, which we heard beautifully in our Haftarah as we are reminded that we are just like blades of grass that rise up in the morning and disappear by the day's end. Commentators throughout the centuries wondered about this notion of the fewest of all people. Is it about our self-image? Ought we to think of ourselves as small and fallible? Shouldn't God have chosen the most numerous nation in the world as his people? We read in Proverbs, the glory of the king is in the multitude of people. But God does not do that, says Moses. This Am Segula, in the verses right before, that beautiful phrase that we have in the Lecha Dodi, this treasured people, is tiny. Sforno gives a beautiful reading of this, that God did not choose a nation for the sake of God's honor, because had God done so, he would have undoubtedly chosen a mighty and numerous people. His choice had nothing to do with honor and everything to do with love. He loved the patriarchs for their willingness to heed his voice, and therefore God loved and still loves their children. This is Tu B'Av, the 15th day of the month of Av. It is traditionally one of the most joyous days on the Jewish calendar. As I mentioned earlier, this was the day that the grape harvest began, when young women would dress in white and go out to dance, and young men would follow them, hoping to find and choose a suitable bride. It was reclaimed in modern Israel as a day of romance, celebration. Lots of flowers and romantic dinners will take place, hopefully, and be given tonight. We have in this parsha the Ve'ahavta, and you shall love. And it is at the center of our Aron Kodesh in two places. You shall love the Lord your God, from this week's parsha, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. We look at it often to see the word "and you shall love" going across the doors that hold our sacred ark. So this Shabbat is a celebration of love. It's a reminder that we don't need to be the biggest to be the most treasured. And that is supposed to give us hope and comfort as we begin this season of comfort, building to the High Holy Days. So when we feel small, we should look at the world and consider the extraordinary contributions that have been made and continue to be made by Jewish people, despite absolutely everything that has been brought against us. It is often said that we would be a lot bigger had we gone out and actively sought converts. I'm still not sure how effective that would have been, but it's nice to imagine. And as well, of course, we have stayed so tiny because of the outsized notion about the Jewish people that there are, quote, too many of us, and we need to be brought down to size. But this is, though, a Shabbat of love and comfort, a Shabbat when our hearts continue to be shattered. And we can piece them together a little bit by being here for Shabbat. It's so good to see so many generations here today. But our hearts are not whole, not by a long shot. The continuing pain and confusion that comes from the land of Israel and in the ongoing, indescribable, and hellish humanitarian catastrophe that is Gaza is leaving the Jewish people close to speechless. How do we address with love and comfort each other, the tradition, and the world situation when our hearts hurt so deeply? So I want to, as we say now, make space to hold the sadness and the confusion that is part of every breath right now. And I want to raise up a person who is anything but small, an extraordinary woman with whom you are all familiar. She was roommates with my oldest friend in the world, my beloved Adina, who was roommates in Israel on her Year Abroad program with Rachel Goldberg-Polin. We are almost at the first yahrzeit of the murder in captivity of Rachel's beloved son, Hirsch. It will happen on the 1 week I'm away, and I want to come with full heart to acknowledge Rachel and her family. And I want to read some of her words today as an expression of comfort to her, of honor, and of gratitude to this extraordinary woman and her husband, who are, in my humble opinion, as tall and as regal as any two Jewish patriarchs or matriarchs have ever been. She wrote just a few days ago, "Destiny tapped me on the shoulder from behind. When I turned around, he ducked and was gone. Nothing has ever been the same. It never will be. So here is my new path, breath, pulse. Here is my new life. At 8:23 a.m. on the morning of October 7th, 2023, my only son Hirsch's last written words to me came up on my cell phone in 2 consecutive texts. I love you, and I'm sorry. He was a person, a civilian, music lover, soccer enthusiast, traveling citizen of the world, friend, brother, grandson, firstborn, and only son. But in that instant, Hirsch became a one-armed, after his dominant left forearm was blown off, stolen, tortured, and starved hostage. Eventually, Hamas executed him in a tunnel 65 feet underground. Today, 666 days since he was stolen and 340 days after Hirsch was murdered with 5 other beautiful, luminous young people, we are all still sitting here waiting. Who are we all? All of us. You who are reading this and you who are not reading this. We are waiting for people with power to decide it is enough, We are waiting for people across borders, political lines, and religious views to decide to stop blaming and to start aspiring to be the best that humans can be. I confess I'm not sure what that is anymore. For my first 53 years, I was at the bottom of the deep end of the pool of naivete. I actually thought the world worked one way. Be kind, be respectful, work hard, raise your kids well, pay your taxes. But in the crash course of geopolitics, I came to learn that every single thing is transactional, that the world works based on interests and equities, and that we human beings, though we tell ourselves otherwise to get through the day, can be quite vicious. My worldview was dashed, like the babes against the rocks in Psalm 137. It is enough. Enough of the hostage families trying to convince the world that stealing our children is not an option. Enough of innocent people suffering from lack of resources, water, food, clothing, medical care. Enough of leaders who use their people as props. It's time for this excruciation to end. Give us back our 50 hostages. Some are alive and some are only alive in our souls. Let the innocent people who are in Gaza have a chance. The innocent people in Gaza, the ones who have lived there for a long time, and the innocent people who were dragged there from Israel on October 7th have had it. We, the people who love them, are broken. And so you handfuls of men who have the ability, make this end right now. Here's the real truth you need to swallow. One day you will be gone. I hate to be the bearer of reality, but no matter what exciting and thrilling things you feel like you are doing, you are dying. You will skedaddle from this world to wherever it is you think you are going, and you won't take any of this with you. So for the love of everything you love, power, ego, legacy, your adoring wives, or any combo of them all, make this end now. I appeal as a mother of a glorious, forever 23-year-old son, for whom it is too late. I appeal to you as a nobody. My name is Rachel, and I am an absolute nobody, and therefore I am everybody. You can make this happen. Talk in those quiet back rooms, say whatever you want to have printed in the papers, feed yourself whatever you need to. We don't care. We nobodies, we're too exhausted to care. Let us lick our wounds. Allow us to eat food we cook at home and not over a fire outside a makeshift tent in the filth. Give us back our children, those who are starving in tunnels and being forced to dig their own graves, literally. And those who have already been murdered, let us bury our children respectfully. We are tired. We are done. We are the children of God. Rachel's declaration that she is a nobody is acknowledging this smallness that I know so many of us are feeling in these days. We feel tiny and powerless to change the way the world is spinning. But when I read Rachel's statement, I said, Rachel, you are not a nobody. You are a somebody, a beautiful mother, a new matriarch in Israel. And my heart goes to you and your family and the families of Eviatan David, Avinatan Or, Alon Ohel, all of the hostages whose names we will read next week, unless a miracle happens and they are brought home. And the Jewish people, no matter how tiny we are, always prays for miracles. So for all of these beautiful people, it is our job today to not give up the power of love, to remember that we may be tiny little people, and a tiny little people at that, but we have great power with our love and our ability to comfort. May our hearts go with ahava on this Tu B'Av to Rachel and her family, to all of the suffering people of this beautiful earth. We may be tiny, but we can yet do great things. Let us do them together. Shabbat Shalom.